When a woman detaches, something shifts not just in her energy, but in the way she's perceived by a man. Detachment is not about playing games, being cold, or shutting down emotionally. It's about reclaiming your center. It's a declaration, I am whole with or without you. That kind of quiet strength is magnetic. Men can feel it, even if they can't always articulate what draws them in. It's an energy, a presence, a sense of self-worth that can't be faked. When a woman lets go of the need to constantly give, explain, or be chosen, she starts choosing herself. And that shift is what changes everything. In the beginning of many relationships, women are often taught to nurture, to be available, to show care through effort. While there's beauty in that, it can easily tip into overfunctioning, doing too much, giving too much, proving worth through sacrifice. What happens then is subtle, but powerful. The more a woman overextends, the more a man feels he doesn't need to show up fully. He gets comfortable. The dynamic becomes unbalanced. She's chasing, and he's retreating. But when she detaches, not with resentment, but with peace, she stops running after, stops waiting, stops hoping he'll finally wake up. And it's in that silence, that space she creates, that he starts to feel her absence. That absence is powerful, because detachment makes room for a man to step forward, to pursue, to decide, and that's where the natural masculine energy thrives. When a woman is overly attached, constantly available, or always trying to fix, it can feel suffocating. But detachment offers freedom to both of them. It gives her freedom from anxiety, from emotional dependence, from trying to control outcomes. And it gives him the freedom to choose her consciously, without pressure. And when a man feels like he's freely choosing a woman, rather than being cornered into committing, his connection to her becomes deeper and more authentic. There's something undeniably attractive about a woman who isn't afraid to lose someone. That doesn't mean she's indifferent or unemotional. It means she understands her worth so deeply that she refuses to beg for attention or settle for inconsistency. That kind of woman holds herself with quiet confidence. She's not performing for love. She's living in it within herself. And that is the kind of woman a man remembers, longs for, and finds himself pulled toward sometimes long after she's walked away. Men sense when a woman's energy is centered on herself. It doesn't mean she's disconnected or aloof. It means she's grounded. She can enjoy love, but she doesn't depend on it to feel valuable. She doesn't need constant reassurance or proof. Her self-esteem isn't tied to someone else's behavior. And when a man feels that kind of emotional independence, it creates a challenge, but the good kind. It tells him, if you want to be here, show up. But if you don't, I'll still be fine. And that mindset is what makes her unforgettable. There's a reason men often chase the one who got away. It's not always about timing or circumstances. Sometimes it's because that woman was willing to detach when her needs weren't being met. She didn't make a scene, she didn't beg. She simply stepped back or walked away. That act alone communicates more than any words ever could. It says, I respect myself enough not to stay where I'm not seen or valued. And even if it takes time, that message lingers in a man's mind. He remembers how it felt to be around someone who knew her worth. When a woman detaches, she's not trying to punish anyone. She's simply protecting her peace, and peace is powerful. It's in that space of peace that she becomes most radiant, most magnetic. She's not drained by emotional chaos or constantly questioning where she stands. She's steady, she glows differently, and people notice. Men notice, because nothing draws attention like a woman who doesn't need it. What's often misunderstood is that detachment isn't about withholding love. It's about releasing attachment to outcomes. It's the difference between loving someone freely versus needing them to act a certain way to feel okay. A detached woman can love deeply and still let go. She can care and still walk away. That paradox of loving while letting go is what sets her apart. She's not clingy, not controlling, not reactive. She moves with calm certainty, knowing that what's meant for her will stay and what's not will fall away, and she's okay either way. So when we say man can't resist women who detach, it's not just about romantic tension or mind games. It's about the deep human truth that confidence and self-worth are irresistible. Detachment, when rooted in self-love, becomes an aura, a quiet power that says, I am enough. And any man who's emotionally mature will feel that pull, not because she's playing hard to get, but because she genuinely doesn't need to be gotten. She is already full. A woman who detaches becomes the one he can't forget because she was never trying to be remembered. There's something deeply compelling about mystery. It holds attention in a way that no amount of explanation ever can. When a woman detaches, she creates a natural sense of mystery, not by pretending, but by pulling her energy back into herself. That quiet shift changes how a man experiences her. Suddenly, she's not as predictable. She's not constantly available or emotionally transparent. And that space, that pause, triggers something primal in him, the instinct to pursue, to figure her out, to lean in instead of pulling away. In most relationships, especially early on, women often give more than they need to. They communicate clearly, they check in, they show care, they try to build closeness quickly. While the intention is good, it can sometimes create emotional overload. Men, by contrast, are often wired to connect more gradually. When a woman is always there, always explaining, always trying to move things forward, he may begin to take her presence for granted. He doesn't feel the need to pursue because there's no space to move into, but when she detaches even slightly, something shifts in the dynamic. He notices the silence, he senses the distance, and that's when the chase begins. Men don't necessarily chase just because someone pulls away. They chase because they feel challenged by something they don't fully understand. When a woman detaches, she stops showing all her cards. She becomes less predictable, and that unpredictability is intriguing, not because she's playing games, but because she's reclaiming her emotional energy. She no longer feels the need to report her feelings, explain her decisions, or wait for him to catch up. She starts living for herself, moving through her days without the need for validation, and that shift is magnetic. Mystery is not about being unavailable or distant for the sake of strategy. It's about holding back the parts of yourself that are sacred not out of fear, but out of self-respect. It's about not handing over emotional intimacy before it's earned. When a woman is too emotionally open too quickly, a man may not feel the need to invest. He might enjoy the attention, but he won't feel compelled to explore her deeper layers. But when she creates space, when she slows down, when she's not constantly explaining her thoughts or feelings, he starts wondering, what's going on in her world? Why do I feel her pulling away? Who is she when I'm not looking? That curiosity pulls him in. It's in the unknown that desire grows. Men, especially those who are emotionally healthy, don't want to possess someone, they want to discover them. But if everything is laid bare too soon, there's nothing left to discover. Detachment, in this context, becomes a gateway to deeper attraction. It tells a man, there's more to me, but you'll have to show up to see it. That kind of energy isn't manipulative, it's magnetic. Because it's rooted in boundaries, not games. It's not about withholding affection. It's about not overextending. And when a woman lives this way, her life becomes more than just a backdrop for a man's interests. It becomes a story he wants to be part of. There's also something to be said about pacing. When a woman detaches, she controls the emotional tempo of the relationship. She stops responding to every message immediately. She no longer fills in all the gaps. She allows space for reflection, for growth, for him to miss her. And missing someone is essential in romantic connection. Constant availability breeds familiarity, and too much familiarity too soon can dull attraction. Detachment keeps things alive, keeps him curious, keeps him reaching. It's not cold, it's intentional. It creates moments of silence where he's left to wonder, to reflect, to feel the impact of her absence, and that's when feelings deepen. Some might argue that this approach is manipulative, but it's not about control, it's about balance. It's about giving both people the space to truly choose each other, not out of need, but out of desire. A woman who detaches is not waiting around for a man to figure her out. She's living her life grounded in her own sense of fulfillment. And that freedom is what draws him in, not because she's trying to be elusive, but because she already belongs to herself. That self-ownership is rare, and what's rare is valuable. When a man senses that a woman is not anxiously waiting on his every move, he steps out of autopilot. He starts thinking about what he's doing, how he's showing up, and whether he's at risk of losing something meaningful. That pause creates a shift from comfort to effort, from assumption to intention, from casual to serious. And all of it begins when a woman detaches just enough to stop chasing connection and starts becoming the mystery worth chasing. In the end, mystery isn't about hiding who you are. It's about not giving all of yourself away to someone who hasn't earned it. When a woman detaches, she naturally reclaims her mystery, and in doing so, she reawakens the very instinct that makes a man pursue her, not out of ego, but out of genuine interest. Because now, he's not chasing a girl who's chasing him. He's chasing a woman who knows her worth. Emotional independence is one of the rarest and most captivating qualities a woman can embody. In a world where many people look to relationships to feel whole or validated, a woman who is emotionally self-sufficient stands out like a flame in the dark. She doesn't need constant reassurance. She doesn't panic when a man pulls back, and she certainly doesn't lose herself trying to keep someone close. Instead, she remains grounded, calm, and steady because her sense of worth isn't tied to how someone else treats her. That kind of stability is deeply attractive to a man, whether he realizes it consciously or not. It creates a pull that's not born from manipulation, but from strength. Men are naturally drawn to challenges, not games, but emotional depth, and emotional independence doesn't mean being distant or cold. It means a woman has built a life she's proud of, one that fulfills her regardless of who walks in or out. It means she knows how to sit with her own feelings, soothe her own fears, and face uncertainty without collapsing into desperation. When she's in a relationship, she brings her whole self, not just someone hoping to be rescued or completed. And that fullness changes the dynamic entirely. Instead of clinging, she allows. Instead of chasing, she chooses. She becomes a calm presence, not a chaotic demand. Many women are taught to believe that being emotional or attached makes them more loving or more real. But true love doesn't require emotional dependency. It thrives on mutual respect and freedom. A woman who is emotionally independent can offer love without control. She doesn't demand constant contact or react with anxiety to every shift in mood or distance. She gives space because she understands the value of her own. That kind of detachment isn't indifference. It's emotional maturity, and that maturity is magnetic. Men often pull back when they sense emotional pressure. They may not even understand why, but something in them withdraws when they feel they've become the center of someone's emotional world. It's a weight they weren't meant to carry, but when a woman is emotionally independent, she takes full responsibility for her happiness. She doesn't hand over the keys to her joy or her peace. That takes the pressure off the relationship and allows the man to be himself. Instead of feeling trapped or responsible, he feels free to grow within the connection, and ironically, it's that freedom that makes him want to stay. The truth is, most men have encountered women who overgive, overattach, or lose themselves in the relationship. That pattern can be draining and predictable, but when a man meets a woman who doesn't flinch at distance, who doesn't beg for attention, who doesn't spiral when he needs space, he stops in his tracks. That kind of energy is rare, and what's rare demands attention. She becomes a puzzle he wants to solve, a partner he respects, and a presence he wants more of, not less. He begins to realize that she's not trying to win him over, she's simply being herself, and that kind of effortless self-possession draws him in far more than any performance ever could. Emotionally independent women also set better boundaries. They're not afraid to say no, to walk away from confusion, or to protect their peace. They don't tolerate inconsistency or disrespect, because they don't need the relationship badly enough to sacrifice themselves for it. This is not arrogance, it's clarity, and clarity is powerful. Men may be used to being chased or forgiven too easily, but when they face a woman who calmly steps back from anything that doesn't align with her standards, they begin to rise to meet her level, or they fall away. Either way, she wins, because her self-worth isn't on trial. It's also important to understand that emotional independence doesn't mean avoiding vulnerability. In fact, it allows for deeper vulnerability, because she's not sharing out of neediness, but from authenticity. She can say how she feels without trying to manipulate an outcome. She can express love without losing herself. That balance is what makes her emotionally safe and emotionally compelling. A man doesn't feel like he's walking into a trap with her. He feels like he's connecting with someone who is solid, centered, and real. This doesn't just make a woman attractive, it makes her unforgettable. Because most people aren't used to someone who's both open and unattached, loving and free, connected but not dependent. That duality leaves an impression. It makes a man reflect on how he shows up. It challenges him to be better, not because she demands it, but because her presence inspires it. She doesn't beg to be chosen. She makes him want to choose her, again and again. At the end of the day, emotional independence is not about distancing yourself from love. It's about having the strength to love without fear. It's about knowing that your value doesn't rise and fall based on someone else's interest. That unshakable knowing changes how you move, how you speak, how you hold yourself, and that's what draws a man in again and again, long after others fade from memory. Emotional control in relationships is often an unspoken battlefield. Many men and women find themselves caught in cycles of push and pull, testing boundaries, and trying to gain the upper hand without even realizing it. It's a dynamic that feels familiar, sometimes frustrating, sometimes exhausting. But when a woman detaches, she disrupts that cycle entirely. She refuses to play emotional tug-of-war, and in doing so, she flips the entire power dynamic. This isn't about manipulation or winning a game. It's about reclaiming her own peace and integrity, and that shift commands a man's respect in a way nothing else can. In many relationships, emotional control manifests as unconscious tests, whether it's a man pulling away to see if she'll chase, or a woman reacting anxiously to perceived distance. It's a dance of insecurities and fears disguised as neediness or independence. But when a woman chooses detachment, she stops responding to these tests the way she might have in the past. Instead of reacting with anxiety or trying to fix the situation, she steps back with calm confidence. She doesn't need to prove her love or her worth through frantic displays of emotion. She simply holds her ground. And that steadiness changes everything. Men often respond to emotional pressure by retreating further. It's a natural reaction to feeling overwhelmed or controlled. But when a woman detaches, she removes that pressure. She doesn't feed the cycle of anxiety and neediness. She doesn't throw out ultimatums or demand explanations constantly. Instead, she creates a space where a man can show up freely or step away without guilt trips or drama. That freedom is rare and deeply attractive because it breaks the pattern of emotional chaos and replaces it with something solid. This shift doesn't mean a woman becomes cold or indifferent. It means she becomes emotionally sovereign. She owns her feelings without allowing them to dictate her actions in unhealthy ways. She can feel hurt or disappointed without spiraling into panic. She can express her boundaries without fear of losing the relationship, and in doing so, she models emotional maturity, a quality that many men unconsciously seek but rarely find. That maturity invites a man to drop his defenses and meet her in a place of genuine connection, rather than control or fear. When a woman detaches in this way, she changes the relationship dynamic from one of codependency to partnership. Instead of being pulled into emotional battles, she remains centered and calm. She refuses to be manipulated by fear or insecurity, and that refusal forces a man to either step up or step away. It's a clear message. She won't settle for anything less than respect and consistency. That clarity is powerful because it demands honesty from both parties. It strips away pretense and forces real conversations about needs and boundaries. Men respect a woman who can walk away and mean it. That willingness to leave when boundaries are crossed isn't a threat. It's an act of self-respect. It shows that she values herself enough to protect her peace. And paradoxically, that kind of strength often inspires a man to become more present and committed. When he sees that she's not desperate or dependent, but instead calm and grounded, he feels challenged in a healthy way. He's no longer in control by default. He has to earn her trust and presence through consistent effort. That dynamic creates deeper respect and often a stronger bond. Detachment also means a woman doesn't get caught in the trap of emotional manipulation, whether it's subtle guilt trips, passive-aggressive behavior, or overt demands for reassurance. She recognizes these patterns and refuses to engage. By doing so, she maintains her integrity and signals that she's not available for drama. This clarity eliminates confusion and games, allowing both people to interact from a place of honesty. That's refreshing for a man and lays the foundation for healthier connection. It's important to understand that detachment isn't about shutting down feelings or pretending nothing matters. It's about feeling fully and choosing how to respond consciously. A woman who detaches feels disappointment, sadness, or frustration, but she doesn't let those emotions control her actions. She pauses, reflects, and decides what's best for her well-being. This kind of emotional regulation is rare and powerful because it creates safety in a relationship. When a man knows she won't react out of fear or desperation, he feels safe to be himself and to communicate openly. This safety and respect that detachment fosters is what keeps a man invested long-term. When the relationship isn't a battlefield of emotional control, but a space of mutual respect and understanding, deeper connection can flourish. Detachment transforms the energy from one of scarcity and neediness to one of abundance and choice. It shows a man that she is a partner, not a possession, a human being with boundaries, not an emotional puppet. By disrupting emotional control patterns, a woman who detaches takes back her power. She becomes the author of her own story instead of a character in someone else's script. And that power is incredibly attractive. It shifts how a man sees her, from someone to be won or controlled, to someone to be honored and cherished. He begins to show up not because he's afraid of losing her, but because he respects her strength and wants to be worthy of her presence. In essence, detachment is an act of self-love that changes the entire relationship dynamic. It ends exhausting cycles of control and fear, replacing them with respect and genuine connection. That's why men can't resist women who detach, not because they're cold or distant, but because they embody a kind of emotional freedom and strength that inspires true partnership. This is the kind of power every woman deserves to claim, and every man deserves to appreciate. There's a profound power in the willingness to walk away. It's not just a moment of leaving a relationship, it's a declaration of self-worth and an act of courage. When a woman truly detaches, she reaches a place where she no longer chases love out of desperation or fear. Instead, she chooses love on her terms, or she chooses herself. This willingness to walk away is magnetic because it signals that she values her peace and growth above all else. It tells a man without words that she's not here to settle for less than she deserves, and that kind of strength is irresistible. Many women fear walking away because society teaches that love means holding on no matter what. We've been told that persistence is proof of love, that sacrifice is necessary to keep a relationship alive, and that losing someone means losing a part of ourselves. But this is a misconception. True power lies not in clinging but in releasing. When a woman can say enough and actually mean it, she reclaims control over her life and her heart. She refuses to stay in emotional limbo, waiting for someone to decide if she's worth the effort. Instead, she sets her own standards and honors them. Walking away is not an act of punishment. It's an act of self-preservation. It's about protecting the space where she can grow, heal, and thrive. It's about refusing to accept relationships that drain rather than nourish. And when a woman carries this energy, men feel it deeply. They sense that she's not desperate or needy, but rather grounded and free, and that freedom is magnetic. It creates a powerful dynamic where the man is invited to choose her, not because she's chasing him, but because he wants to be part of her life. The willingness to walk away also shifts how a man values the relationship. When love is chased, it can be taken for granted. But when a woman walks away or detaches, she shows that love is a choice, not a given. That realization forces a man to reflect on his actions and priorities. It challenges him to step up, to show consistency, and to prove that he's worthy of her presence. He begins to see that her love is not an automatic right, but a precious gift that requires respect. This dynamic changes the whole game. Instead of a relationship built on neediness and fear of loss, it becomes one rooted in mutual respect and intentional commitment. A man who respects a woman's willingness to walk away will rise to meet her strength. He won't settle for half measures or empty promises because he knows she won't accept them. And that pushes the relationship toward greater honesty, clarity, and growth. Detachment, combined with the readiness to walk away, also protects a woman from losing herself in a relationship. When she doesn't fear being alone, she's less likely to sacrifice her values, boundaries, or dreams to keep someone around. She stays true to who she is, no matter what. That authenticity is magnetic. Men can sense when a woman is genuine and whole, and they are naturally drawn to that kind of presence. It's a different kind of attraction, one that goes beyond physical or surface level appeal to something deeper and more enduring. Moreover, walking away teaches a valuable lesson to both partners. It shows that love is not possession, control, or dependency. Love is freedom, the freedom to stay or leave, to grow individually and together. When a woman embraces this freedom, she models emotional maturity and strength. She shows that her happiness does not depend on someone else's choices, and that example invites a man to step into his own maturity as well. It's important to remember that walking away doesn't always mean ending a relationship permanently. Sometimes it means stepping back to gain clarity, to reset boundaries, or to prioritize self-care. It's a pause that says, I am here, but I am not willing to lose myself, and that pause can be transformative. It can create space for healing and for the relationship to evolve in healthier ways. Men respect this kind of clarity because it's honest and unambiguous. When a woman reaches this place of detachment and willingness to walk away, she embodies a rare and powerful kind of love. It's love that is free, strong, and unshakable, not because it's tied to another person, but because it springs from within her. And that is the love that a man truly can't resist, because it's not about needing him, it's about choosing him. And when a man feels that choice, he values it more deeply than any demand or plea. In the end, the greatest power a woman holds is the power to choose herself first, to walk away when necessary, and to love without losing her peace. That power changes everything. It transforms relationships from battles for control into spaces of respect and genuine connection. And it makes her absolutely irresistible.